Hey wealth builders, and welcome back to The Bemused. Today's video is for those of you guys who are either interested in entering the financial planning industry, especially if you're a new college grad or only a couple years into your career, or if you're just intrigued as to what financial planning is all about and you're interested in learning more about the industry. This video is for you. About a month or two ago, I participated in a panel for one of our industry organizations, the Financial Planning Association. And on this panel, I shared a bit of my story as a new college grad joining the industry and shared some tips and advice for new college grads who are looking to do the same. My apologies in advance for the actual video quality in this video, but there's a lot of valuable content in here. So despite that, just keep on watching.
What is it that drew you to planning? If it was out of necessity, then what is it about it that resonated with you? And I'm gonna start it again with you.
Great. So my journey into financial planning started really my senior year of high school. I was, getting ready to apply to colleges, going through the FAFSA, all of that fun stuff, and kind of realizing how much I did not know about money, about finances, the financial aid process, etc. And at the same time, I was looking at, the financial situation of people around me, my parents and people that I knew, and seeing how people were struggling. And I knew I was interested in business, but I didn't know exactly what sector of business I wanted to go into. So after going through that experience, I kind of took to Google and started going down the rabbit hole of what careers and professions will help me help other people with their money. And that's how I learned about the field of financial planning. That rabbit hole eventually taught me how to learn about the CFP and all of the things, and that's kind of how I stumbled into it. So I majored in finance on the undergrad level, also majored in accounting, and then when I graduated, I knew I wanted to go for my CFP. I wanted to do more classes specific to financial planning, so I came out here, went to Bentley, did the Master's in Financial Planning program, and did the whole CFP path from there. So that's what drew me to it.
When you're intentionally trying to find a financial planning job and you're looking through job posts or you're networking with people, how do you suss out what's actually a financial planning job?
In the process of learning more about the industry, I had some conversations with various people. At one point I had a mentor through NAPFA, and so that's of course a fee-only network, and then I also had a conversation with someone who was working at Transamerica, so we're two different sides of the fence. And by asking those questions about what do you do and how do you get paid and things like that, I learned a lot through those conversations. And also because what I hear a lot too from other college students, recent grads that I talk to now is I hear a lot of the time, the two things is I don't want to sell any products for a lot of people, and I don't want to do business development or source new clients. And so what I tell them is when you're looking at job descriptions, look at them really closely. When you're going into interviews, ask the necessary questions that you need to ask in order to learn more about the company when you're going through the process. For me, I know what I wanted to be in a fee-only RIA type of environment. So when I knew I landed on that sector of the business, I was looking very closely at job descriptions, what series and licenses were they asking for in those job descriptions. If I saw life and health or Series 66 or Series 7, certain things that would just trigger kind of questions in my head. So those are the kinds of things that I looked for when I was looking for a position, what I tell other people who want to go down the same path. Mentorship has definitely been very beneficial to me and instrumental in getting started in my career. So like I said, once I went down the rabbit hole of Google and happened upon NAPFA, the National Association of Personal Financial Advisors, for those who aren't familiar. I signed up for their mentorship program, and I got paired with a mentor who had an office, a solo advisor. His office was not too far away from my college campus. So we would meet periodically, and sometimes I would shadow him. He would give me a lot of advice and resources that I could turn to. He introduced me to the world of Michael Kitces, for example, and all of these things. So it was definitely very beneficial to me getting started in my career. I definitely think that because I didn't have anyone in my immediate circle, or no one, still don't in my personal life, who is in the financial planning industry, I definitely had to take that extra step and seek out mentorship. So that would just be something that I would advise to college graduates. If you don't know anyone who is in the industry, definitely take those steps to reach out. And this is a good opportunity tonight to reach out for mentorship. So.
And Akiva, since you mentioned Michael Kitces, it's a blog. Kitsis.com is what she's talking
Yeah.
about. Since you mentioned Kitsis, this leads into another one of the questions, which is there's so many resources out there, and particularly so many conferences and continuing education events to go to. How do you, and I'm going to keep it with you. Can you each address how do you choose which of the many events to go to, how to prioritize your time and energy?
Yeah, for sure, and it's the height of conference season right now, so I'm definitely having a lot of FOMO looking at some other people who are at different conferences and I'm not there. But for me, I can give you kind of my rationale when I think about what conferences and events to attend. The three things I think about are, one, is this going to be beneficial to me currently in my current role at my firm? How's it beneficial to me at this moment? Two, is this something that might be beneficial to me later on in my career, maybe the next level of my career, the next transition that I'm hoping to make? And three, is this just something that I'm particularly passionate about or interested in that would really invigorate me? So those are kind of the three questions I ask myself when I'm thinking about a conference or an event to attend. So for 2019, I attended, will attend 2 conferences this year. So I actually went to FinCon earlier this month, which is not necessarily a financial planning specific conference, though a lot of financial advisors do attend. It's kind of a financial media conference in a way. But for me, it kind of hit all 3 areas because, one, I was able to network with a lot of financial advisors that would be beneficial to our firm because we keep a list of advisors who, if someone isn't necessarily a good fit for us, we're able to refer them out to someone else. I was able to meet a lot of people there that could, fit that list. And then I was also able, because I do run a YouTube channel on personal finance on the side, meet with a lot of other YouTubers, people that are in the media space that are talking about personal finance. So that was definitely a good conference for me to go to. So I felt like it fit kind of several things in that. And then later this year, I'll be attending the CFP Board's Diversity Summit in DC in November. And so I am very actively involved in diversity efforts at my company, and it's something that I'm very passionate about. So therefore, it's something that I'm going to do. I went to it last year and it was amazing, and I'm going to go again this year. So that's kind of the 3 things I ask myself when I'm thinking about events and conferences. Yeah, so 2 things I would say. The first one was just, it ties back into something we were talking about a minute ago, kind of navigating the lay of the land of financial services and understanding which firms do what and kind of where I wanted to fit into this industry in that respect. And so the second thing also was coming into an environment, my first job out of college, it's like I'm entering an environment where there is no one else who looks like me, and I'm also the youngest employee at the company, so there was a bit of imposter syndrome that came along with that transition. So that was definitely, I think, a challenge that I had to overcome a bit as well.
Any tips for overcoming?
Well,
And I know I said I was going to turn over to you, but one more question. Any tips for overcoming imposter syndrome? Is this a term that's familiar to the audience? That doubt that comes in even though you have evidence of success?
Mm-hmm. So one thing that a coworker encouraged me to do that's helped a lot is maintaining a brag book, which is basically like anytime you do something good, no matter how little it is, write it down every single day, make an entry in your brag book, and you'll go back and realize, hey, I'm actually making an impact here. I'm actually, doing some really good work here. So that helped a lot. That was one major thing that I would recommend. Yeah, I agree. Doing your homework is really important. Funny enough, that's one of the videos we're putting on the channel soon, is kind of distinguishing between a lot of the popular finance certifications, designations out there. For me, I would say I have my CPA, PFS, and most recently the CFP, as of like 3 weeks ago, so that's new. Thank you. So I know
What's the PFS? Sorry.
That's the personal financial specialist. So let me backtrack. So the CPA I did, because I did major in accounting in undergrad, as I mentioned earlier, and so I was like, why not? I'm going to go for the CPA. I have the knowledge that I think I need to get through it. There's a lot of aspects that are applicable to personal finance. Of course, the first thing people think about is taxes, even though that's not all we do, which is what we talk about in that video as well. Taxes are only about 20% of the exam, by the way, just so you know. So there's a tax piece, but it's also the business planning piece with the type of clients I deal with who have, businesses and entities, like knowing, how to read the financial statements and things like that, and notice errors and things like that that affect their personal finances is a good skill to have. So I did the CPA, and then the PFS, which is the Personal Financial Specialist, is a sub-designation of the CPA. And so that is really for CPAs who are demonstrating a commitment to personal finance, basically. So you can get the PFS through passing the CFP exam. So that's kind of the route that I took. So it's kind of kill two birds with one stone. And it also satisfies your Series 65 requirement. If you're in like a fee-only environment, you need your 65. So that's the route that I chose to do, is to kind of bang that out first while I was waiting to fulfill my CFP requirements. And the CFP, I just think, is what's known as kind of the premier designation for if you're going into financial planning, and that's what I knew I wanted to do, so it was kind of a no-brainer for me to do the CFP. There's no really such thing as a typical day, especially at the entry level. There's some portion of it that is client-facing, responding to emails. I like to joke that my job is crafting carefully worded emails. That's what I do all day. But so it's responding to client requests, and it's also a good bit of reporting. Naturally, at the entry level, there's a good bit of financial reports to do, and just standard things like that. Not necessarily the most glamorous things, but things that need to be done in order for your client engagements to run smoothly. So there's a bit of that. There's also some what I like to call extracurriculars. Like I mentioned, I am involved with diversity task force at my job. I'm also part of our impact investing task force. So there's a couple of kind of internal things that we do that take us some time. There are days where I'm in meetings all day, whether with a client, with a client team, or days like today where it's kind of head down, not really any meetings, just kind of getting stuff done. It really runs the gamut, especially with the types of clients I deal with, because we have such an extensive scope. There's just always something. Basically touch anything that has to do with the client's money, or not even sometimes. So it's just a lot. So it really depends on the day. And I agree. I would say communication and building your emotional intelligence and empathy kind of ties back to what I said earlier about crafting carefully worded emails. It's all a part of it, is thinking about how do we get them to do the thing that we've been talking about for so long, or how do we phrase this in a way that doesn't push any buttons for the client, like getting to know the client, and things like that are really important skills, transitional skills. Sure. So I would say that I particularly love working with the kids of like the primary clients, GQs, kind of people that are around my age, because they're really the ones that are kind of in similar stage of life. They're trying to figure their lives out, launch careers, launch businesses, doing different things. So I find that really exciting and rewarding, seeing kind of those who are, I guess, sort of used to growing up with wealth in a lot of situations, kind of forge their own path, and I find that very empowering. So I really love that.